Hey folks, you're listening to episode 47 of the Deeply Devoted Podcast, a ministry of the E-Free Church of Bemidji, Minnesota. My name is Eric Nygren. I'm one of the pastors on staff here at E-Free Bemidji. And just a couple of weeks ago, we welcomed the newest member of our staff team to the E-Free Church. And after really a year-long process of searching and interviewing candidates, the Lord brought us Pastor Shane Fleming to serve as our new youth and young adults pastor. And I thought, what better way for us to get to know the new guy than to invite him onto the podcast. So with me today in the Deeply Devoted Podcast studio is the legend himself, Pastor Shane Fleming.
Woo.
Yeah,
hello.
Pastor Shane, welcome to the podcast.
It's great to be here. I'm really excited. I love podcasts, so this is kind of a dream to be able to be sitting here and talking to you about this.
Yeah, it's. I was just explaining to Pastor Shane just even how the idea of this thing came together, and even for those that are listening, if you go back to episodes 1 and 2, it's kind of introductory, and that's how we got on this idea here. But it's a great vehicle to get to know people, whether it's a new staff or members of our church or global partners and things like that. So, Pastor Shane, thanks for taking the time to record this episode with me. I mean, you've only been here a couple of weeks now, and I know we've already filled your calendar with meetings. I've seen his calendar already, folks. He's got appointments, meetings, ministry opportunities. In fact, we even threw you into VBS literally on day one.
Day one.
Pastor Shane, how's the transition been so far?
Oh, it's been as smooth as I could ask for. I think there's always a reality when you move that there's variables. And so we've had a lot of things that went really well. We're pretty established at our place. We actually just got a new hutch today. My wife let me know on my break that I've got a project when I get home tonight.
Okay.
And that'll be like 9 o'clock. I'll be building a hutch in my living room.
Something you got to put together or something. Okay.
Yep. So other than that, I've got a little boy. He's 2.5, so he's transitioning well too. Getting a rhythm, like you said. Starting off the first week here with VBS, that if you'd have told me that's how my first week would have looked, I probably wouldn't have believed you, 5 years ago. But hey, we rolled with it. We did well. Just trying to really get my rhythm, and I think that'll come with time. But when you go from selling John Deere parts to stepping into your first full-time ministry gig, there's things to be learned right away. So
I think that's one of the things you learn in ministry really quick. There's sort of your job description, and then usually every one of those job descriptions has something at the bottom that says, all other duties as assigned,
so much,
including. I think at one point at VBS, we put like a unicorn head on you. Did. I mean, what a trooper. Pastor Shane, thanks for jumping in and just being willing to serve. It's part of the gig. It's part of pastoral ministry. You never know what's around the corner for you to do. But
for sure.
Hopefully we've given you enough time to even settle in a little bit. You've settled in hopefully to your new office here.
Yep.
Are you starting to decorate the office a little bit? How are you making that office space your very own?
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to make it feel like my own shoe that I'm stepping into.
Yeah.
We had some students who almost immediately pranked my office. And so I'm a devout Vikings fan, and I have a Clay Matthews very large picture sitting in my office, and I'm debating, do I leave it there for the fun or do I take it out and burn it? So other than that, my office is coming together. I'm trying to create a little spot of like a little coffee nook almost.
Okay.
So it's just taking time to figure out how much I want to do with that and how late I want to stay up on Pinterest at night looking at different ideas, or if I just should close my eyes and go to bed.
Right.
So it's coming along well.
Okay. So you're a coffee connoisseur then.
Really
you're okay. You're going to fit in really well here.
Yes.
So,
the mug in front of me is as full as I can keep it.
There we go. Good. Well, I mean, that really is. It's sort of like, moving into a new house, moving into your office, kind of making it your own. Just over time, having that space, because it really becomes not just your workspace, but it becomes ministry space and meeting space and
Just a little extension of your home almost.
Yeah. And I think you've got probably like a little whiteboard or something on the outside of the door. So folks, if you want to come by and leave Pastor Shane a message, please feel free to do that. Write some graffiti or some kind of nice, encouraging note or something like that. Yeah. I'm sure your students are going to utilize that. I'll just say utilize.
Utilize is a good word for that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of our church family got to know you, Pastor Shane, through our candidating process.
Yes.
There may be a handful of other people, though, or newer people that weren't a part of that or didn't really get to know you. They know you're here, but maybe don't really know much about who you are. Would you mind just kind of telling us a little bit about who you are, maybe your family, things like that?
Yeah, no, awesome. So my family, my immediate family kind of consists of my wife and my son. Christine and Harrison are my number one and number two. And
That's the right answer, by the way.
That's right. Yeah. Yes. And I've got some immediate siblings that live near us, and my extended family from my mom's side lives in Florida. But most of the rest of my family actually lives near like Bemidji, LaPorte, Walker area.
Okay.
So all very local. And my wife and I, we met in 2014, right? Yeah, it would have been right around 2014. And actually had no intentions of really dating even. We met each other, didn't really like each other, and kind of moved on, and God ended up, forming a really cool friendship. And from there we decided that, maybe that person's pretty nice to date. And now we've been married yesterday, 8 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Together for 11, and we have a little boy. So, that's my family. And, we were in Bemidji for about 10 years, got the opportunity to go to Oak Hills. And, that's where I believe that I was meant to go from like 12 or 13 years of age. So I pretty much coasted through high school. Like, yeah, I'll be at Oak Hills. Like, I just knew, and God provided that opportunity.
Yeah.
And, from there I ended up working. My wife and I both worked at Lucan's for a while. I worked for Knife River Materials here in town while pursuing my degree. And then God actually had us land out in Grand Forks, North Dakota for a little bit. So we got to work for John Deere. So True North Equipment, shout out to them. Worked there for 2.5 years. And, as I'm learning, how to serve in the community and serve with other people, and I got to interact with Hope Church down there and Freedom. And, there's a time where you just kind of wonder, like, all right, am I truly going to be in ministry full time, or is this what my ministry is going to look like? And so there was a good portion of time there that I thought that maybe God was just going to prepare me to be in ministry in the workforce. And I was totally okay with that. Like, I had learned how to disciple well to the people around me, and God provided the opportunity for us to come back here. And it, like Pastor Eric said, it was definitely, even for me, like a 7-month process of this, hire and meetings and interviews and getting to know people. And wow, it's been, what a cool landing spot, and what a cool place to be, right where my wife and I feel called.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you're here, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, it was kind of a process. And Pastor Shane, I don't know anything really about, combines or field cultivators or planters or anything like that. But I did tell him a week or so ago, I do have a little John Deere lawn tractor at home, which I think it's funny they call him a lawn tractor because it is it's a lawn mower.
Yes.
Let's be honest, a riding lawnmower. So if you ever get the need to service John Deere or if I need to know about parts for that thing, I know who to reach out to.
Yeah, if I have to have that itch get scratched, I know who to talk to myself.
I'm sure there's other people in our church who have bigger implements that might need more attention than my lawnmower. But yeah, speaking of that candidating process, I think many of us at our church, we kind of understand how that candidating process works from a church perspective.
Yeah.
There's, we open a new position or there's a vacancy and we put a search committee together. And, in a lot of ways it mirrors any other job, that interviewing process and things like that. And so we kind of get it from this side of the table. But Pastor Shane, I'm kind of curious about what the process is like for you on your end. and you alluded a little bit to that, but would you mind just kind of walking us through, in particular, how did you know that this is where the Lord would have you? I mean, I guess maybe similar to say, how do when someone might say, well, this is how I knew that this person was going to be my spouse or whatever. But tell us a little bit about how'd you know that this was where God would have you?
Yeah, well, I'll just kind of go back to the beginning. I'd been applying and looking at different spots at that timeline, and it was probably, I don't remember what timeline the Toby Mac concert was here in town, but I had ran into
late fall or something like that.
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah, and right around there, I'd ran into actually Randy and Michelle McCain, and it had been an encouragement from them because he had just kind of put a plug in my ear, reminding me like, hey, they're still looking if you're still interested. And I was like, yeah, I think that I was like, yeah, I put in an application and we'll find out about it. And they had actually reached out to me pretty early on and just said that there's someone that had been further along in the process. And so I waited, I just kept working, and because that's what you do. You put any job application you put in, generally they'll respond to you, and then it's time from there. So I just kind of kept working, and it came about, they told me that I'd probably know around January, and it was actually February. And so I've kind of checked it out on my brain of like, okay, like they found their person, and God put someone in the position. That's great. And Danny Paddock emails me, lets me know like, hey, we're still interested if you're still interested. And I was like, wow, yeah, I absolutely am. And so while this is all going on, I remember back about 6 months ago to 8 months ago, I had actually been talking to a good friend of mine, and I was like, I genuinely feel called back to Bemidji. And this is before I'd even spoken with Danny or anybody in this case. Like I was just talking, and I was like, I know there's certain things in my heart that I have a longing for, and there's certain things I know to be true. And I knew to be true from, what I would argue is the Holy Spirit's impression on my heart, that we were called to this area. Like everything desire-wise was just pushing us back. So I didn't know if it was E-Free here. I didn't know where, but I just knew that eventually this is where God wanted us to land. So then fast forward during this process, we're going through the interviews, we're doing the questions, we're talking to everybody, we're getting to know one another, kind of the courtship of the interaction. And it just starts to feel like, wow, this really kind of feels right. And then you get to the part where you got to cross the T's, dot the I's, got to do the campaigning weekend. I come up, boom, big storm that weekend.
That's right.
So I'm rolling up to the church, that morning, and just like looking at everything and seeing how everyone's just like trying to navigate disaster in the moment. And for me, that was in a very affirming moment, just seeing how well the church just came together, and it was like, let's let the big thing be the big thing. And we're not going to it wasn't like they took it and just made it bigger than it was. They took everything at a moment, and it was just really cool to witness. So for me, that was a big moment. And then, step into meeting with the students, meeting with the families, feeling like I just belong when I was here for my campaigning process that we postponed to the 4th of July. And people still showed up, even on a holiday weekend. And fast forward to, we get the call, and, I'm like, Danny calls me. I'm like, all right, we'll think about it. I was expecting like 12 hours, 24, and I just start crying. And I'm talking to my wife, and we're both just like holding each other, bawling. And it was like, do you feel peace? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, me too. And it was a fact of, I didn't have anxiety when I said yes. I didn't have anxiety about stepping into it. And it's my first full-time position. And when you're stepping into something that big, it's a big deal to shepherd people. And it's a big responsibility. The Lord is calling specific individuals, and he's giving you a large task. And for me, like, I understood that weight, and I understood the pressure and the anxiety and the peace that God gave me versus the anxiety that I had felt in years past was an abundance. So I think that was just the moment where I'm like, yeah, this is where we're going to be. And everything lined up, from the provision financially to provision for the job to provision for the place to live, and everything was so good. So
Praise the Lord.
I know I
Yeah.
kind of painted that big, but
Yeah.
it was a big deal.
Well, I think that's helpful because again, we get it from our perspective, the church's
Yeah.
perspective, but sometimes we don't get to hear the whole story
Yes.
of, whether it's and not just our pastoral staff, but all of our staff team or who as we bring people into different positions.
Right.
It looks a little bit different when it's say pastoral staff or
Yeah.
kids min director or something like that. But every one of our staff roles is crucially important
For sure.
It's just neat to see it kind of come together.
Yeah.
Speaking of our staff team, I know that we love the work that we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a privilege to be able to serve the church, but we do need to take time off once in a while each week to be with our families, to get some rest, and to recharge. And so, Pastor Shane, what do you like to do when we let you have a day off?
Yeah, I love to. We try and spend as much time with our family as possible. Whether that's we plan on making some trips to Fargo as my siblings move there from Grand Forks area over there. And we've got family in LaPorte. My mother-in-law has a little farm. Shouldn't say a little farm. She's got a pretty good sized farm there in LaPorte. And so bringing our little guy to go and just do tractor rides, 4-wheeler rides, go and look at the cows, and then go to the beach and Walker. Leech Lake's fun, and we've got good family there. So they've got a park, they got a beach. It's just be outside, be present with family, just try and disconnect as much as possible.
Yeah.
We don't do a lot of stuff in front of screens until maybe late at night.
Yeah.
And for me, I like to golf. So I very much try and find as many opportunities as I can and as low cost opportunities as I can to golf because I picked a very expensive hobby. But I love it. Anything to get outside and be together as a family. And now I've got a few friends in town that I haven't seen in a while. So I'll probably take some time to reconnect with them. So
Good.
Yeah.
Terry Hewitt, if you're listening, Pastor Shane just confessed to be a golfer. And so we've got our missions golf scramble at the end of September.
That's right.
Fundraiser for short-term missions. So we're going to, if they make me do it, and I don't, I barely mini golf, let alone real golf. If they, I shouldn't say make me do it, but if they allow me to be a part of a team, they're going to be glad to have you. So that's coming up this fall. And by the time this episode posts, we post our episodes now every other Tuesday. By that time, we'll be just a couple of weeks away from the start of what is going to be a new school year, which is always exciting about what's coming up for the new school year. And that, of course, means that our Wednesday night kids club and youth group is going to be starting up for the fall. Yeah, Pastor Shane, what are you most looking forward to about Wednesday nights at E-Free Bemidji?
Oh, man. So the one thing I've just been chewing on so much lately is the mission of the church and becoming deeply devoted followers of Christ. And I'm so excited to work alongside the leaders that have been here for the past years. And honestly, just stepping into this realm with Amy Graff, we've both been envisioning what ministry looks like and how to incorporate more ministry, not just with students, but with families and the community.
Yeah.
And so I'm very excited to just work with that team and see what this orange curriculum is going to look like. We're going to try and step in and try something maybe a little bit new this year for the youth group.
Yeah.
But not new in a way that's just new for no reason. It's very intentional that this is disciple making. This is coming alongside family and providing opportunities for us to work within the community and share this outside of the four walls, right? That's always the goal, is that ministry isn't done just in a building. Ministry is a life of worship that bleeds into the community. And so I'm really excited to see how we can, not necessarily start this, but just continue what's already been happening and just expound on that. So, yes.
Yeah, there's an energy in this building on Wednesday nights that is hard to put into words. And I've said to many people, whether you've got kids or students or you're an empty nester, you just got to come and see it and experience it, whether it's the meal, before things get going on Wednesday night, or what's happening on the lower level with kids, or down here in the CLC with students. I think Amy Graff coined the phrase "sweaty discipleship."
Sweaty discipleship.
And that stuck with me, and I think, yeah, that's about right. And we've got a couple of our life groups that meet on site, and so there's not a room in the building that doesn't have ministry going on on Wednesday night. And if you drive by, the parking lot just seems about as full on Wednesday as it does on Sunday. So I'm excited too, just to see, both as a parent of a high schooler, but also, there's an energy about Wednesday night ministry that's it's important to our church. And so I'm excited to let you, or have you, be a part of that. So,
yes.
Well, I think about that. I'm a parent of a teen. I've got one more teen at home here, and whether we've got teens at home, or had teens at home at one point, I think everybody remembers what it was like to be a teenager.
Oh yeah, 100%.
What it was like to be in middle school or high school, and I think we all understand that those years are very unique.
They are.
There's a challenge that comes with it. They're very formative too.
Yes.
So Pastor Shane, what got you into student ministry in the first place, and what do you love about it?
Yes. Oh, that's such a good question. I love the fact that we can just be ourselves. And sometimes ministry can feel like a box, and youth group and youth ministry feels like it's just this, Pandora's box of endless opportunities and endless ways to do ministry that doesn't always look cookie cutter.
Yeah.
And we're always trying to find ways to minister to people where they're at, and culture's constantly changing, and student life is constantly changing. Yeah. What's the norm? What's being said? How are people speaking? And so we're constantly in this evolving process. And I just love that. I love that it's not just one thing every night, one thing every year. There's this expectation of what can we do different? And because Christ came, and it wasn't just one single thing that he did. He came and just radically changed everyone from the inside out, and how ministry looked, how discipleship looked. And youth ministry, I feel like, in student ministry, replicates that well.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, that really excites me. And, I was someone who was influenced by my youth pastor growing up in those years. Yeah. And I had Timber Bay leaders, who, when I was able to step into that program, and they came around my family, I had so many people stepping into my life in those years that just rocked my world and relentlessly pursued me, because they realized that there's hope that can be deposited in us, that the world is not allowed to take away, and only God will sustain it. And they realize that. And for them to instill that in me, I just want to replicate that as much as possible, and allow the Holy Spirit to work through us to our students. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite memory from back in those youth group days when you were a student, and maybe even think back to, how did God use those days in your life to bring you to the person you are today?
Yeah, I've got one that always sticks in my mind. When I think I was like 13 or 14, I had a youth pastor. His name was Trevor Schwartz, and we were at the high school, and he and I would hang out like once a week. Yeah. And we kind of do like a one-on-one, and he brought me to the football field because I was working on routes. I was trying to get in shape for football. My mom, I was really small when I was young. I'm still not very big. I was like 125 pounds soaking wet with my pads on. Like I was not a menace. I was saying my parents made an offensive lineman and a punter, and I was a punter, size-wise. And so Trevor and I would go to the school and run routes. And I remember we're walking back from running routes, and there's like garbage in the parking lot. And he just picked it up, and we kept walking. There's another piece, and he picked it up. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, you know the word integrity, right?" And I was like, "Well, I've heard the word, but I don't know much about it." And he's like, "Integrity is about being the same person in front of people that you are when you're not in front of people." And he's like, "Me picking up this trash isn't because I need to be someone in front of you. This is just who God's shown me who to be."
Yeah.
And that just rocked my world. And I just watched him be that way in front of everybody. It didn't matter if he was in front of the elders at his church or if he was in front of the guys doing drugs down at the dam. It was just, he was unapologetically and authentically him. And it was just, it blew my mind then, and it still blows my mind to this day.
Yeah.
So just watching how he lived out the example of Christ was enough to make me just be like, whatever's in him, I want to be that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
That resonates with me too. I think back to my middle school and high school years. I was involved with our youth group at our church, and I don't mean it as a critique of our church, but as a teen, I was very disconnected on a Sunday morning. And so it was actually in the youth ministry that I clearly heard the gospel and started to understand it. In fact, as a seventh grader, was where I really believe that the gospel started to make sense. I don't know if I fully came to faith in seventh grade, but I think the fuse was lit for me there. And it was formed over those middle school, high school years to the point where, I knew who I was in Christ by the time I went off to college.
Yeah.
And, I attribute so much of that, not just to the youth pastor or the youth minister, but to those volunteers that were working with the students. And they just made the gospel accessible to me. And just were men and women of character, and they were fun to be around.
Yes.
Our youth group was just like most youth groups. There was a good balance of, devotional content, but also play.
Yes.
Our group, I remember we had a reputation, our church youth group, for having some of the big wild games. Sometimes you'd walk away with an injury, those kinds of things, carpet burns and stuff like that.
That's fun with a purpose.
Yeah. And so it was just, for a kid that I really didn't have any interest in Sunday morning church.
Yeah.
And, my parents weren't believers, and they just felt a compulsion to maybe just my sister and I to go to church and maybe pick something up. It was the youth ministry that really, I'd say, was instrumental in God's plan for me. And so that just excites me to think about those opportunities. And we look at our students and just think, what is God doing in their lives? Not necessarily because of us, but through us.
Through us, yes.
As we serve, whether it's staff or volunteer.
Right.
So that's pretty exciting, Shane. Now, just to kind of shift gears here a little bit, as people are starting to get to know you, they refer to you as the new youth guy, the new youth pastor. But I want to be really clear that your title is pastor of youth and young adults.
Correct.
There's an "and" in there. We might think that, a big bulk of this is for student ministry, and it is. But we don't want to neglect that young adult ministry that you'll be part of. So, that means you're shepherding our what we're calling kind of our post-high school adults. Some of them are college students. Some of them are jumping into the work world.
Yeah.
Pastor Shane, I want to ask you, what do you think our church family needs to know about the current generation of young adults?
Yeah. I think the current generation of young adults really wants somewhere to belong and wants something that they can almost take ownership of, but not in a way that if I don't show up and I'm not a part of it every time, like I'm going to be condemned or I'm going to be critiqued.
Yeah.
But it's just longing for a community.
Yeah.
Because I know for myself, right between like that 19, 20-year-old range when I was launched, like even so 19, 20, I'm like head deep in Oak Hills. I've got so many different things going on, school, I've got friendships, I've got, I'm volunteering at these different outreaches. And even my context, I was doing so much and still at times struggled to feel like I was really a part of something. And so I think that's what we're longing for, is we want some place to belong and something to take ownership of and feel like, yes, this is not like an identity piece necessarily, but just a group of people to walk alongside of us. And I very much resonated with the fact that I felt like I could have done more and I didn't. And I just want to shepherd people in the sense of, God always meets us where we're at. And so if we can meet consistently and be here for each other, that means that relationship that's real can grow, and people will be present for you, not only just when things are going really good for you, but who's really there when life stinks?
Yeah.
Who's there when tragedy strikes, when you have no finances, when the car breaks down, when you lose a girlfriend, when you move away and you have to say goodbye to relationships. Like those are big monumental pieces that, can rock our world. And so to have consistency in place and have relationship in place in those moments, I think that's what people are really longing for.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, that longing for community, that's probably true of every generation, but I think it is representative of kind of the current young adult generation. And so, in terms of application, I think it's really a two-way street here. So if you're a young adult and you're listening to this, I would encourage you to find ways to connect here at this church in ways that resonate with you. Mm-hmm. Certainly, Pastor Shane and I are going to be talking about what our young adult life group looks like. Right. And I know that you'll be thinking through some opportunities for young adults to gather together. Yes. But I'd also say if you're a young adult, find ways to get connected with the rest of the church as well, whether that's in a life group or serving on a music team or serving in some other capacity or whatever that is. But again, that's a two-way street. So for those that are not young adults, we need to make space for young adults. And I think we need to be intentional and just remember that, even though you're tasked, Pastor Shane, with oversight of that young adult ministry,
correct.
Ministering to young adults is all of our responsibility.
Amen. Yep.
And that's as simple as sitting next to someone in the sanctuary on a Sunday morning and saying, I don't know who you are, but I'd like to know you. And I love there's intergenerational at play. Yes.
And that's every church body, no matter, because every church body is going to have, babies, and they're going to have people who are pushing their 90s and into the hundreds maybe. And regardless, we're still one body.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so there's this opportunity we have to, I know for myself, I had such good influence from people who were 10, 15, 20 years older than me. And they made such a profound impact on my life, years ago and even currently now. And so we have this cool opportunity to still see that played out.
Yeah.
And so, I would encourage people as well, don't assume that because you might be older than them or you might be younger than them, you can't speak life to them or you can't be in relationship with them in a way that's profound, because you never know. God uses us in so many different ways that we don't even anticipate. And you might not even know, they could come back years later and be like, you took time and I've never seen that before. Yeah. You took 5 minutes out of your day and no one's ever done that for me. Yeah. And those small moments will add up over time and create, foster something big that is what we're looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited. About our young adult ministry. I got to speak at Crew a couple of times last year, and that's such a good group. And, working with some of our other college students and young adults, you're in for a real treat as you get to know these folks and start to get into that ministry. I know that Pastor Jerry and I are really excited to have you join our pastoral team.
Thank you.
And Pastor Shane, I've said this to others before. Hopefully, I've said this to you. But one of the things that I really do appreciate about this church is, as long as I've been here, and I know this goes well before my time here, is that the youth and young adults pastor is, in fact, a pastor.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, yes, your role is going to be focused on overseeing the discipleship ministry of students and young adults.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you're only a pastor to those age groups.
Right.
That you are one of our church's pastors. And it's been really neat over the years that I've been here is to see how our youth and young adults pastors have connected with people in across the generations, And so, Pastor Shane, what does it mean to you to be part of a pastoral staff team?
Oh my goodness, it is the coolest thing in the world, and it is the most humbling thing in the world. I mean, you talk about responsibility, and you talk about, integrity and recognizing the role that you play in God's kingdom. And I shouldn't say like play in the sense of like it's just something that we do, but you really dive into the deep end as far as relationship goes.
Yeah.
I mean, when your interactions with people now, nothing is shallow. There might be a few, like you might have the conversation of how's the weather, how are things going, yada, yada, yada. But now there's opportunity when people really have big highs and low lows, you're in the depths of it.
Yeah. And
so I honestly take it as, I'm trying to be as gracious for this opportunity and as responsible as I can. And as the Lord just directs me, because it's so cool and I'm so excited and I love people. I always have, little guys, big guys, everyone in between, Lord just giving me a heart that just wants to pour into people and lead people. And so, I keep having the term like shepherd come to my mind, and, Jesus calls himself the good shepherd, and we are in fact shepherding, but we're under the big shepherd. We're little shepherds, and that's a good responsibility and a big one. And, we just I have to remind myself daily that it's not my youth group. They're not my young adults.
Yeah.
It's God's youth group.
Yeah.
It's God's young adults. This is God's church. And we get the awesome opportunity to be vessels that God will work through in this community.
Yeah.
But we're pouring into other vessels as well. We're empowering people. This isn't just the work that Pastor Eric does or Pastor Jerry does or Pastor Shane or Amy or all these people on staff. This is our work as a community of Bemidji. And so there's so much at play in such a cool way. And I'm just so excited and so thankful to be a part of it.
Yeah. It is an awesome privilege. And I think back to 20 years ago when I started in full-time pastoral ministry.
Yeah.
And getting used to the fact that people were calling me pastor.
Mm-hmm.
Even as a name. I mean, sometimes they would say Pastor Eric, or they just call me pastor.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't want to say it was hard, but it was eye-opening for me, especially if those were people who were a generation or two or more, older than me.
Older than you. Yeah.
And that someone that was, say, my parents' generation was honoring me with that,
yes.
By using that. And, in humility, sometimes I would say, oh, you don't have to call me that. You can just call me by my first name. And some people would just kind of insist on it. And it is just, it's a kindness, but it is also a reminder that, I am their pastor.
Yeah.
What a privilege that is.
That is. Yes.
And I think what you'll see here pretty quick, Shane, is that there's a lot of trust.
Yeah.
That trust is earned.
Sure is.
But
100%.
But I think that kind of comes with the title, and it's an awesome responsibility to
really is.
To be trustworthy.
Yes.
In the ministry. So
yes.
Yeah, it's exciting to have you on board on our staff team.
Thank you.
Pastoral staff team. It's a little humbling because now I don't feel like the new guy or the young guy anymore. I've been doing this a little while, but it's a privilege to maybe hand off some of the things I've learned over the years, and maybe here are the dumb mistakes that I made. Don't do them. Things like that.
I am a sponge. I will.
Yeah.
Give me as much as you can, because I'm so willing to learn. And I think that's the other part that's really exciting is I've thought about this moment almost my entire young adult life, and what it would be like. And when I got that first email with Pastor Shane as the title, wow, that was I opened my phone, I showed my wife, I'm like, hey, look at that.
Yeah.
I'm like, isn't that wild? It's so cool. And yet there is that reality of there's a lot and a lot you don't know. So please foster any wisdom to me that you can think of.
I know we don't really do business cards much anymore. That's kind of antiquated technology, or so maybe they're still around. But I remember that kind of same moment of, oh my goodness, it's on letterhead, or it's on a business card, or it's on an email signature, and I guess that's official. Or I remember just even our little name badges that we get, or the sign over the door. Or
I just got mine yesterday.
Yeah,
that was the exact
this
moment.
Is official. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I guess this is the real deal. So, yeah. Well, Pastor Shane, I know you've got a ton on your plate as we get ready for the restart of ministry this fall. So, Pastor Shane, what are some of the ways our church family can be praying for you?
Wow. Pray for peace and wisdom. I think for myself, it's very easy to get stuck in the, especially coming into this, August 10th being my first day, and realizing that a month after that was the kickoff of youth group. And then the week before that is the launch of our Anchor Young Adults, and then Crew that following Thursday. I'm trying to do my best to not feel overwhelmed by tasks and recognize that keep the big thing the big thing. We serve a great God, and we serve a God who is going to abundantly pour into us exactly what we need. And so just for peace and wisdom that, to rest in that. And for my family, we're stepping into something that's brand new in the sense of a full-time scale. And so we just need as much support physically as much as we need it emotionally and spiritually. So in that, if you see my wife and you see my son on Sundays or Wednesdays, or, throughout the week, if you see him in the community, just give him a high five, give him a hug, say hi. Yeah. They could really use it. And just pray that God would continue to, walk before me as we step into this, and pray for good relationships too. It's been so warm being here, and even launching right into VBS, it was really cool just getting to see new faces, old faces. So I think, peace, wisdom, relationships, and over my family.
Yeah. Well, you'll be pleased to know, and maybe you've already figured this out about us, but this is a church filled with people who know the ministry of prayer and appreciate the ministry of prayer. And I know that I am often encouraged when one of our church family makes an intentional, comes to me and says, I've been praying for you this week. It wasn't even about a specific prayer request or anything like that, or know that you're on our, we pray for you regularly or something like that.
That's so good.
And I'm just super encouraged by that. And then I'm just reminded I need to do a better job at that. I need to, be in prayer, and much like Paul does in his letters, says to those he's writing to, I've been praying for you. And
so true,
folks. That's such an encouragement, and we don't want to neglect the ministry of prayer. So let's pray for Pastor Shane and Christine and Harrison as they get going here.
Thank you.
And so good to kind of get to know you here, Pastor Shane. We're going to wrap this up with one more question.
Go for it.
At the end of every episode of this podcast here, I like to ask our guest a question that may be related to what we're talking about. Maybe it's not. But as you mentioned earlier, here at our church, our mission statement, what we really kind of talk about a lot here is that we are becoming deeply devoted followers of Jesus together.
Yes.
So, Pastor Shane, I want to ask you, what is one thing that you've been blessed by lately that is deepening your own devotion to Jesus?
I've been doing as much time as I can just worshiping, and not in the sense of always looking at it like a song, but I've been spending so much time. Like, I've gotten to mow my yard twice. And since mowing my yard, I've got a push mower. I don't have a riding tractor, as John Deere would call it. So And so I get this opportunity to my wife lets me mow, and Harrison and them are running in the background, but I get just these moments to just sit there and either sing under the lawnmower or just be praying. And so for me right now, those moments of mowing the lawn in the last 2 weeks have really helped, and just trying to spend as much time in the book of Ephesians as I possibly can. The first few chapters of Ephesians, if you haven't just dug into them, I encourage you to, because it paints such a beautiful picture of the gospel.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite phrases that I've been going over and over in my mind lately is he just lavishes us with his grace. And so that's really been helping me. Like every day he's lavishing us with his grace. And it's not grace that we can ever earn. It's grace that he has given us abundantly because he loves his creation so much.
Yeah.
So that's really, really been helping me.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, it's been fun getting to know you better here, Shane, on the podcast. I hope others are blessed by this. When you see Pastor Shane on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday, or when you stop by the church, his office is over on the other side of the building, the CLC side. Stop by again, write him a note on his whiteboard, send him an email, fill up his office voicemail. He's learned how to use his voicemail, so let's test him a little bit. But folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the Deeply Devoted podcast. My thanks to Pastor Shane for joining me today. I want to remind you all that you can email us, and you can send an email to podcast@efcbemidji.org. And you can share feedback, or you can ask questions, or even give some future show ideas. We would love that. It helps kind of get the creative juices going. So utilize that email, podcast@efcbemidji.org. But we'll be back next Tuesday, or in 2 weeks on Tuesday, with another episode. And until then, have a great week, and thanks for listening.